Welcome to Monochemistry. Tonight we're going to learn about drawing Ionic Lewis Dot diagrams. The question is, draw the Lewis Dot diagram for the compound that forms between sodium and oxygen. Step 1, as I've done already, is to draw the Lewis Dot diagrams of each element. If you don't know how to do this, you can watch the previous episode of drawing Lewis Dot diagrams of elements. Step 2 is to determine the number of electrons the nonmetal needs to form an octet. In this case, oxygen needs 2 electrons. I can tell that from the empty space here and here. Step 3, does the metal element have enough to give to complete the octet? If not, then how many are needed? In this case, oxygen needs 2, sodium only has 1 to give. So 2 sodiums are needed. Step 4, transfer the electrons from the metal atom, or atoms in this case, to the nonmetal atom, or sometimes you might even have more than one nonmetal atom, depending on the number of transfers that are required, as follows. So one of them will go there, one of the sodium electrons will go there, and the other sodium electron will go in the other empty space. The last step is to draw the final product. Now when you do this, you alternate the positives and negatives. You always start with the one you have the most of. In this case, we have sodiums, which have a 1 positive charge. Because remember, when you give up an electron has a negative charge. So if you give one of those up, you become more positive. So the sodium giving up 1 electron is going to take on a 1 plus charge, each of those sodiums. The oxygen, on the other hand, because it's taking in 2 electrons, is going to take on a 2 negative charge. So here's what we do. We start by writing the sodium, because we have more of them. Then we alternate. The next thing we do, and we always put brackets around the nonmetal, watch. Put the oxygen, put the electrons in, 6 valence electrons, and it has a 2 minus charge, plus the 2 electrons that the sodium donated to it. So we have those 2 electrons, and then we have our last sodium to finish it off. So you see, we have the 2 sodiums, the oxygen, the charges are all there, the electrons that were all there originally are still there, even though they've been transferred from one element to another, and we have our Ionic Lewis Dot diagram. And that, in a nutshell, is how you do the ionics. Now, having said that, if we go back to step 3, notice that I said you look at the nonmetal, see how many it needs, and you figure out if the metal has enough to give it. Well, what if the metal has more than enough to donate to the nonmetal? Then you simply have to reverse kind of that whole statement. So in that case, you'd have to add an extra nonmetal element. But the process works exactly the same way, depending on what you have. So we'll do another example later on where the metal has more electrons to give than the nonmetal needs. But in general, this is how you do it.